Okay, so people might think I don't like Baron Coleman by the way I talk him. It's quite about by the way I speak about him. It's quite the contrary. I watch him all the time. But as I've said many, many times, manipulation is my thing. And I watched him the other night, and because it's so weird, I've been talking about, not that he see my videos, I ain't even got subscribers, but because I've been talking about how I don't believe his background, and he came from how I not so much don't believe his background, but I think it's a bit shady, it's a bit translucent, let's put it that way. And the other night, I've been speaking about him like I have in the last few videos, and then the other night, the night before last, what are we today? So, we're Sunday, so I think it was Friday, yeah, Friday, because he doesn't really do a show on Friday. And in the middle of it, which is the way he puts information that he wants to be taken in but disregarded and move on, he put out a statement about how he all of a sudden rose. And it was because during one of Ian Carroll's I think it was Free Speech Fridays, he mentioned him. He mentioned his work, and that's what happened. And he said he was forever grateful or something to that effect for that. I don't believe that that was the case. I believe that he said that. It's my opinion that that wasn't the case. He said that because people are starting to question what's going on here and the rise of these people. It's not just me. People are starting to question. I can feel the energy of it dwelling up, you know, now that the Charlie Kirk thing is subsiding a little bit and people are not blinded by the need for information, this vacuum of requirement for justice over Charlie. People who didn't even like him, know him or care, ended up putting their own trauma onto it and attaching to the need for justice. So the other night he mentioned that, and I thought it was very interesting because I saw a clip, I can't remember, I have a still shot of it. I saw a clip of either Billy or Brandy interviewing him outside what appeared to be a courtroom. I don't necessarily know it was. It just, I had the energy of a courtroom outside it. And she was holding some sign, some silly little protest, not silly, but some silly little handwritten thing in respect. I can't remember what it even said. It's obviously something to do with justice. But she was holding some sign and she had a microphone up to Baron Coleman's face, and she said something about hearing from Candice, and he made some reference to "you know I have," and I didn't listen to it all because it just kind of reaffirmed something for me. And then a few days later, I had already watched the show. I actually saw that clip in hindsight, but then I referred back to a clip I had watched which made reference to him talking about Billy and Brandy and their first live. And he was saying go over and watch them. There are a couple of girls in their bedroom and they're doing a really great job, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But it was their first show or something. It was just strange. So in the moment, I'd already been doubting him. So in the moment, I looked over at the channel to see what was going on. They're not my cup of tea. I can't really watch them. But I looked over at the channel to see what was going on. And I think the next day they'd had something like 5,000 views or something like that. And I don't know. But a lot for a first stream. And that really doesn't happen. That doesn't happen unless you have some backing behind you. Nobody knows you. 5,000 people ain't jumping in to watch you live. I don't care what they say. I don't care what they say. 5,000 people is not jumping in to watch your first live unless you've been doing a lot of work and you've been strict. Like, let's say the history of Coach Colin. He has loads of stuff on his channel before he did regular live. So it's not surprising how many people are turning up at his live session. It's really not a surprise. But for Billy and Brandy, it really was. And that was the second clue to me that something else was going on. This was in the early days of the investigation of Charlie and the Google Trends. It was in the early days of that. And I started to notice this relay going on. The relay respect is him tapping Brandy and Billy on the shoulder, as in, it's their turn now to get some light, you know, to get some credibility. I honestly believe that in my world, Ian Carroll made a collection of people as a business opportunity. And he inserted those people into social media. And he knows social media so well that he knew the rise had to be incremental. Because he knows people ain't stupid and he knows they're going to see this. He's well aware of all this. The man is very astute, very, very astute. And I think he planted these people in social media and they were systematically brought in. It's like when, I'll go into the different people, but just let's say when Baron Coleman or Candice mentions Lionel, and then Lionel is all of a sudden his growth starts to be rapid and blah blah blah, and it happened with a lot of people. I'll go into them as I go along, but anyway, this is just the one about Baron. And then I started to do a little look-see, and then I started to do a little look-see for myself. So I had a little look to see what was going on in Baron's background, and there was mention of his radio and all the rest of it, but there wasn't really a great deal in terms of his background. Now, he's also mentioned that, he has a background in radio and he'd been there a long time. My argument is if you're that good and you've had this history for so long of doing stuff, then why were you not taken up before you did a YouTube channel? You know, why was there no uptake on how great you were as a presenter then? Now, I understand that doesn't always happen, that people fly through and they're not necessarily caught and you get a lot of backing and all that to come forward. But that's my whole point. That's my whole point. Listen, there isn't a boy band on the planet that wasn't invented. They didn't just meet and start rehearsing in a bedroom. I don't care what story you've been told. I don't care. And another thing that was quite credible and which was very, very noticeable to me across the platform completely was this rise of these people doing these podcasts. I hate that term. It's so ego based. It's almost like saying I was on TV. But this and they had all this TV equipment. They weren't just using, like I am at the moment, a camera. And you can use a computer. Of course you can. You can have a good mic. I'm not talking about that. This was professional equipment. These were these wire-based. I noticed Baron had all these wires. Yes, I'm deaf myself, so before you start saying he's hard of hearing, I wear hearing aids, right? But he had these tubes down, which was proper hearing equipment, set into serious audio equipment. And there are clearly other people around him. This is not a room. I want that pulled back. I want to see the rest of that room. That's not a room. I'm not buying it. In my opinion, that's a studio. And I think that the idea was, when each person got in, if they implanted themselves and they did well, that then they would be invested in further, either further invested in equipment or computers or whatever, and given then their views and all that were going to be increased, and their channel was going to be given a lot more in the algorithm. You can buy the algorithm, don't talk nonsense. So they were going to do a lot of that. And I think that Baron Coleman was one of the first major players. At this point, Ian had already been on Candice's show, right? And you can't tell me that, the link between them is purely an app where he created to find out who was selling what brands of products and who actually owned all of this, that and the other. Yeah, he did all that, but he already had a massive hand. He was already well off from working in the area of IT. I think it was IT in Berlin. He did some business deals, or so it might have been gaming on some platform, but I did see his financial background and all that. I don't retain all of this information because I find it quite irrelevant. All I need to see is that you had enough money not to be organic. That's where the truth lies for me. But then he was on that, and then Candice brings him, and then he's on Candice. What? So this guy there was a lot of people doing a lot more work than Baron Coleman at the time. Why weren't they sitting in the seat in front of Candice? Do you know what I mean? That was his tap on the shoulder in the relay from Candice. Do you know what I mean? And then the team either belongs to Candice or it belongs to Ian. I'm more on the side of it belonging to Ian, in my opinion, in my world, in my little story. I'm more on the side of it belonging to Ian, because I don't think Candice has the knowledge of this generation's viewing habits and how they would soak up somebody who was introduced them via social media. And I think that Ian's trying to I know Ian's tapping into the younger lot. He should do. You need the minds of the younger people, but that is still manipulation, just be honest about it. But the way he talks about boomers, it's clearly he doesn't want them as part of his audience, because his manipulation is to a different generation. You might say, oh, the manipulation's not bad if it's opening people up. Well, then you're also on the terms of saying that positive discrimination is not bad, and it is. All discrimination is bad, whether it's for a positive or a negative reason. It's discrimination, and you can't change that definition just because you put the word positive in front of it. So my thing with this now is, I watched how all of this happens, and I'm going to go through other people. This is not just about Baron. The reason I speak about Baron, because Baron is the first place I noticed this pattern start to happen. And yes, we can find patterns in anything we want, but this is pretty strong in terms of a pattern. And I think these people have been put in to infiltrate social media and act like television programming, you know. He already worked for he was an undercover informant, or he was an informant, wasn't he, as a lawyer? And to me, that means you're already able to be underhanded and pretend you're someone you're not. You know, you're going to sit on social media in the same way you would have been an informant and pretend to be you're a person you are not, just to achieve a particular outcome on behalf of society. So in Baron's case, it was to do with criminality, but that just means that you have that in your character anyway. So I think I will move on next to, let's talk about Lionel. Oh, before I go, don't forget to hit the subscribe, a little likey, and move on. I'll drop the ego.